Good morning, everybody, and we are live. A lot to talk about. Very excited today. I am. There's a bunch to talk about, a bunch of different things going. Good Lord, I look like a clown. Whoo, got some sunburn yesterday. I do not wear makeup. You can tell. I look like, whoo, let's do it. Let's get into it. Let's have some fun. Welcome, everybody. I hope you're having as good a day as me. I'm telling you, you couldn't slap the smile off my face today. I've got a good friend that'll be joining us today. You folks are always. I've got to laugh. I'll get an email or a comment or something, or even in chat. Man, Paul, I don't know how you know so much. I don't know this, that, and the other. This, that, and that. Let me tell you something, people. I am dumb as a box of rocks. I am an old hillbilly boy. It is just that simple. I am just not the smartest guy in any room. Have you ever heard that old expression? If you want to flock with the eagles, if you want to fly with eagles, don't flock with buzzards. Yeah, that's me. I gravitate towards smart, capable people. And when something happens, I'm not one of those people that are like, oh, I know everything about everything. Let me tell you what I think. No, I keep people around me that know shit, that know what they're doing, that have experience, that are sharp, smart, capable people. And I go to them and say, hey man, what do you think about this? And we talk about it, and and then I will formulate from that. It's a matter of knowing good people. And like I keep telling you folks, everything is local. Everything is local. All politics is local. Get to know the people around you. Get involved with your local Democratic Party. Get to know what things are going on. I've got a guest for you today. I'm really excited. He's a good friend of mine, former ambassador, one of the sharpest people I know. Let me bring him in while I'm talking about him. This is Christian Wright, my friends. He is one of the super sharp people that I know. And this is why you folks, I love you folks. You're complimentary. And it blows my mind when people say that. But the only reason I know shit is because I know people like Christian. That's why is the only reason I know shit. Christian is a former ambassador. He served as I'll let him tell you a little bit about his resume. Welcome, Christian. Thank you for being here. Thanks for talking to folks with us. Of course, we're going to talk a little bit about what happened with the No Kings Day. That was a blast, my friend. But yeah, please let everybody know a little bit about yourself, about your resume, where you come from. The floor is yours, my friend.
All right, Paul, it's great to be on the show. You definitely oversold me in a big way, but I'm happy to be here and I'm happy to share some of my experience. I did not a U.S. ambassador or a former U.S. ambassador. I'm a former U.S. diplomat, and that's just a matter of gradations. But I did a 21 career with the State Department, served all overseas for 21 years in 7 different posts. I'm originally from East Texas. I grew up in Tyler. Went to Andy Woods and Hubbard and Lee, and my parents are from. My dad is from this area. My grandparents ranched in this area, and so I have a lot of roots in this area, and I know what it was like to grow up in Tyler. So that's a little bit why what we're seeing here with this grassroots movement in East Texas in response to the Trump administration is so interesting. But yeah, I'm happy to talk about things. I am filled with optimism based on last weekend's protest as well, and I look forward to talking about it.
Yeah, that was a blast. Let me tell you something, folks. I just want to for two things. First of all, Christian's being very humble here. He is really one of the sharpest people I know. He really is. Second of all, he comes from a pedigree of service. He does. Your daddy was also served. He was a former congressman, correct?
No, he went to the U.S. Naval Academy, and he served in the military and in government for quite some time. Yeah, he did run for Congress actually back in 1980. But yes.
My bad. For some reason I thought your dad was a congressman in government. My bad. But look, this is the kind of thing that I'm talking about. I tell people, I stress to people all the time, everything is local. You have to get out. You have to get involved. And folks, I've got to tell you, this is freaking hilarious, man. I love this. Your outfit on No King's Day, man, was the best. You won. You won the day. Christian is a dapper guy. Okay. He is. This is as casual as I've ever seen Christian. Okay. He is dressed to the night, sharp guy, wears nice suits, this, that, and the other. He shows up. I just want to paint this picture. I wish you had your crown, man. I really did. I want to paint this picture for you. Yeah. I come walking up, and what do I see? I see Christian there. Nice suit, this, that, and the other, long flowing kingly robes, big crown, scepter, walking through the crowd. It was hilarious, my man. It was great. It was great, man. And that's kind of what I want to talk about a little bit is just to begin with was the mood there. I got from so many people, they were like, oh man, I thought this was going to be negative. I was really worried there's going to be a lot of Trumpers causing trouble here. That is not what these things are like, right?
Mm-hmm. No, I would say it was almost like a carnival atmosphere, actually. I think, what I can say about the past several months, I mean, I think a lot of people, whether they voted for Trump or not, I think a lot of people can feel that there's been a lot of apprehension. I mean, definitely in the world that I come from, which is the world of working as a federal, I used to work as a federal employee, and in the world of federal workers, I mean, it's been devastation all over the country. Federal workers have been losing their jobs left and right. And that goes all the way down to the grassroots in East Texas. Postal workers are worried. Their union was dismantled. A lot of federal unions have been dismantled. What Steve Bannon talked about, muzzle velocity, all of those executive orders, one after the other for these early months of the Trump administration have produced the shock and awe that people talk about. And so, you look around and people have been very demoralized, anxious, afraid. The crackdown using, ICE and other things to crack down on dissent, had made a lot of people apprehensive. Obviously, we've also seen some political violence. And so as we began trying to create this, grassroots movement in East Texas, people, who are either progressives or who don't agree with the prevailing, ethos of the current administration, generally keep their mouth shut and kind of keep their head down. And so we started doing some protests. We would have 80 people, then, and a couple of weeks later, 120 people, then 180 people. For the No Kings event, we had 400 RSVPs. That would have tripled our last protest, and we would have been tickled. So happy if we had 400 people.
But yeah, I mean, what about 1,500 people showed up, man?
Yeah,
I mean, it was huge. It was huge.
Yes, it was massive. And I think that psychologically really made a huge difference in the crowd. You talk about the No Kings costumes and stuff like that. It sounds fun and funny, but there's some, there's a real serious goal behind that. And that is just to bring people into the spirit of what we're trying to accomplish. And people need their voices to be heard. There's such a diversity in our movement in terms of age. I mean, you saw older people, young people, you saw African-American, Hispanic, white people, and every other kind there. And it was really fun. I mean, people were so excited to be with so many hundreds of other people in East Texas. I mean, that was really something. And so the mood was really ebullient. I mean, the mood was.
And I told people, and I just want you to confirm this for me so that people don't think I'm being, I'm exaggerating or making it up. There were literally church grandmas there standing right next to anarchists with mohawks, bright yellow mohawks that were just standing right next to each other, chanting the same chants, man. It was a crazy diverse crowd. And the young people, Christian.
Yeah.
Oh my God. You know how it is. Normally we have one of these protests. It's, you're the youngest guy in the room, man. It was so good to have young people there. It was exciting, man. It was exciting.
Yeah, and you get to a point that we talk about a lot in this movement, and that is, going back to what I say about people being apprehensive. We say courage is contagious. There's a lot of people that wish they could stand up, want to stand up, and the Japanese have an experience. It's like the nail that stands up gets the hammer, and that's how a lot of people feel like it would be if they stood up. And at the No Kings event, and this is of course 1,200, 1,300 plus people in Tyler, and then you talk about nearly 5 million nationwide, 5 million plus nationwide. That's when people who have those feelings start to feel courage. And everyone who attends an event like that is essentially not just there themselves. They are like a beacon of hope and courage to even people who drove by in their cars, even people who read about it in the newspaper, people who saw about it on their social media feed the next day. I mean, these types of standing up for our democracy, standing up for each other, standing up for our community, that reverberates through the country. And this is really just the beginning.
Yeah, and I've got to tell you, when you talk about this, I can feel you talking about it as in you've seen this before. I mean, you served in Serbia. You've served in, I mean, you've seen these things grow organically before. I mean, that's the kind of thing that just really is. I mean, it healed my heart, man. I've said this over and over again. Everybody, the 2025 project was designed to make us feel this way. It was designed to make us feel overwhelmed. It was designed to it was a fire hose of shit blasting at us all the time. Getting together and watching this happen. I mean, several times you saw me. I was acting a fool. I was marching back and forth, screaming. I lost my voice for 2 days, man.
Good for you.
But we had a good time in the sense. But man, I sat back and I watched people, and it was just, man, it healed my heart. It did. It healed my heart. It reminded me who we are. It was wonderful. And on the note of wonderful, I want to point this. I just wanted to bring this up. This happened, and everybody's very disheartened by this. And I understand why. Trump had a little bit of a victory. When you go to an appeals court, it's a 3-court panel. Then you go in back, you get the full panel. Well, and the 3-court panel said, yeah, it's okay that Trump has nationalized the National Guard in California because you've got Gavin Newsom there. He's fighting him on this. But Christian, this is why. If you go down and actually read the article, this is the excerpt from the article where they explain why they allowed him to do it. And I'm going to tie this back to our protest here in a minute. It said that while presidents don't have unfettered power to seize control of a state's guard, the Trump administration had presented enough evidence to show it had a defensible rationale for doing so, citing violent acts by protesters. Christian, I rail about peaceful protest and the effectiveness of peaceful protest and how much these fools that show up and act like fools and are violent. I mean, we had a couple morons driving around in Trump trucks. People just didn't engage. We did our thing, man. We did. And the smart protesting and peaceful protesting, you've seen this on before. You've seen it in places where it's just not so peaceful. The government is coming right at people. Don't give them the excuse. This hurt us. This just hurt us in court. Gavin Newsom went to court and said, I want my guard back. You have no excuse to use them. And the Trump administration just held up pictures of people acting like idiots.
Mm-hmm.
And I catch a lot of hell about, oh, well, you've got to do more than just talk. You've got to do more than no, you're feeding them. You're playing into their hands.
Yeah. And the more you're absolutely right about peaceful protest. I mean, that is really important. And also very important about having, protests that are nonpartisan as well, to extend the tent. So, I mean, we have to be willing to do a show of force. I mean, but it has to be peaceful. And I do think, though, you're talking about, muzzle velocity and how we've been blanketed by the Trump administration. I do think that a lot of that, including what they did in LA to counter those protests, can backfire. I mean, we had a certain number of RSVPs for the No Kings event prior to the Trump administration's crackdown in LA. And then as soon as people started seeing those images, especially of US military on the streets of LA, we started getting RSVPs rolling in. And I really do think that a lot of the Trump administration's attempts to show strength are actually revealing a lot of weakness and are actually fueling the protest movement in ways that they probably didn't expect.
Oh, absolutely. You saw what just went on at Dodger Stadium. ICE was trying to do a raid in Dodger Stadium, and the security, everybody at Dodger Stadium, the people at Dodger Stadium, and the mayor, Karen Bass, everybody, no, leave. And the owners of Dodger Stadium, you're talking about, you're getting on the corporate level now. The owners of Dodger Stadium were like, no, you're not doing this in our backyard. You're not doing this. And it matters, folks. It matters. If we can get out there and make our voices heard, those people hear it. They do. And you're going to get people that say, oh, no, if you just do that, Trump doesn't care if you talk or not, just that and the other. Well, you know what? Trump's an asshole. I'm not trying to win Trump over. What I'm trying to do is bring people over like the folks that own Dodger Stadium. Mm-hmm. And those organizations that hear, that want people to show up at their businesses, they hear you. It really matters. It really matters. And getting involved on the local level is huge. It is everything.
And the Trump administration had what they promised their voters was that, they would get rid of criminals. And, that had broad appeal. Like if someone came into the country and they were, Salvadoran gang members, legitimate Salvadoran gang members, or something like that, I think there was broad appeal in saying, okay, well, these people shouldn't be here. I think it's the way the Trump administration has gone about, stealing children out of, elementary and middle schools and separating, parents from small children who are citizens. And it's really been an issue of the rule of law. I mean, I often joke that the slogan for the Trump administration should be, terrible things done badly. It really is, there's a tremendous amount of incompetence as well as cruelty. And that is a terrible combination, I think, for the Trump administration, because they are spreading the pain of these terrible policies so broadly that you can hardly talk to a person who hasn't been either directly or very closely indirectly affected by these policies. Whether you're, a Texas business owner who has a factory that builds, let's say, furniture in Texas, but so many of the inputs for the furniture that's made in Texas are from China or abroad, like the upholstery. And then those factories will start closing. I mean, I talked to my solar provider, and he was like, look, I had a request for service. He was like, I'm doing my best. 80% of solar companies, are closing, going bankrupt because of the Trump administration policies. And that's to say nothing of federal workers. That's to say nothing of people whose VA benefits are being cut, or Medicare cuts, or SNAP cuts, or cancer research canceled, or ICE disappearances. They have spread the damage and spread the pain to so many different constituencies that, of course, they're going to get a grassroots movement against what they're doing. And and they're trying to scare us into, and it's really galvanizing us instead.
I say this over and over and over, Christian, and it's exactly what you're talking about. Is the silver lining in all this is that they're incompetent fools. They're idiots. They are morons. But I keep telling people, even an idiotic, weak, lame duck president can do a lot of damage. Yeah. He can hurt a lot of people. And so we've got to stick it out. We have got to be tough. We've got to stay involved. But what you're talking about is they keep doing things, and the more they do, I told people this right after the election, and really was, read the room, Paul. People were upset, and this wasn't the message that they wanted to hear, but it was true then, and it is true now. There's the difference. There's a huge difference between standing up on a campaign trail and say, I'm going to do this, and this is going to be great, and this, that, and the other, and actually governing and actually doing things. We have so many people that were, I've played clips of people that were Hispanics that were like, oh yeah, deport those people that thought they were good with the system. They thought they were okay, and then they're crying, they're deporting my husband, they're deporting me, and I voted for you. And reality is very different, and it looks real. I want to show you this. You were talking about criminals. They wanted to. I want to introduce you to an arch criminal. I do. He is just the villain of villains. This is Victor Avila. Right here in the middle with his family. This is Victor Avila. He is 66 years old. About 20 years ago, Victor got a DUI. That is his criminal history. He got a DUI. He's had a green card for 58 years. Flew to Japan because they are a patriotic family. He's lived here his whole life. I don't know why he hasn't never naturalized. Well, I do know, because the system for naturalization in this country is, pardon the expression, Christian, fucking stupid. It is. It is outrageously expensive and difficult to become naturalized. It is. The process is your average American cannot get through that process. They just can't. But that, just to set that aside, he goes to visit his son, who is serving in the Air Force in Japan. He's flying back through, hits the airport. His wife goes through. ICE grabs Victor, the arch criminal, man, saving America. He's been locked up in an airport for 2 weeks. 2 weeks in California. He's been locked up in an airport. No facilities, no nothing. There's only chairs for them to sleep in. This guy is the arch criminal that he has known no other country. None. His parents brought him here when he was 7 years old. He has had a green card since he was 8. Folks, can you explain for the folks here, the difference between a green card and being naturalized? It's kind of a little bit of a confusing subject. And people think somebody's got a green card, they're a citizen. They're not a citizen.
Yeah, if you're a green card holder, I mean, it gives you all kinds of permission to stay in the country long term. It's part of the process towards being naturalized. But being naturalized, you're a citizen. You have all the rights of citizenship. Having a green card is just like a very long-term permission to stay in the country. You can work, et cetera, et cetera. But until you're naturalized, you're not a U.S. citizen. With all of those,
people don't realize that you're in danger. I mean, this guy did nothing really. I mean, he did nothing. He works at a law office. I mean, he's his entire family, they lived the American dream, Christian. Yeah, that's what they did.
But see, he's a 66. You can energize all kinds of people with just this one story of this kind of wanton cruelty, senseless intervention. But the Trump administration is multiplying this story by tens of thousands all over the country. And there's a lot of Trump voters, many of whom are good people who are all of a sudden know someone like this in their community. Maybe they work at the restaurant where they routinely go. Maybe they work on a ranch. Maybe they work in the law office. Maybe they work in the dentist's office. People are starting to know these people that are suddenly having these problems, or their spouse or their child. And it's making it very real for them. They say that if you want to get away with stuff, you make sure that the pain is in some far distant place, like another country, or if you want your policies to have support. Well, the Trump administration is working overtime to make sure that regular people in blue states and regular people in red states all end up knowing someone who was directly affected by this type of cruelty.
And as more and more of these things happen, Christian, they get shown. We're not getting much help from the corporate media on this stuff because they're doing a lot of pandering to the Trump administration. And you've seen this in other countries where the media just. I remember watching Gary Kasparov talk about, look, folks, your institutions aren't going to save you. They aren't. They don't. The media doesn't come riding in on a white horse and save you. It doesn't. And we're seeing that here. You're seeing they're corporations and they're bending the knee, and you're not, and they're not showing people, look, this is the face of it. This is what it really looks like. But fortunately, folks like us we're getting that stuff out, and more people are seeing it. And even people that were, supporting Trump on the immigration thing, because the point you made earlier about, everybody, I don't care what your political stripe is. If someone is a violent criminal, get them the hell out of here, man. Mm-hmm. We don't want that here. We want good people here. But for the most part, people that come here are good people. They are. They're just, and people are seeing stuff like this over and over again. They're like, what are you doing arresting people at immigration court? Mm-hmm. Because they're there to do what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, exactly. And for people who are concerned about this particular issue, actually, there's an event coming up that's sponsored by Not Above the Law. It's on Thursday, June 26th from 4 to 6 at the corner of Broadway and Shiloh. And it also has to do with this whole thing about due process. This is really, disappeared in America. It's a nationwide protest, and then this is like our sort of local version of that event. And you can learn more about it at mobilize.us. Mobilize us. This is exactly. I think what's really happening, that's really generating a lot of cognitive dissonance in our nation for all voters from all parties, and even people who are not political, is this is not the America that we thought we had. America doesn't always live up to its ideals. We do good things in the world. We sometimes do bad things in the world. But we have like really strong values of what it means to be Americans and what it means to be in America and what America is. And those values actually really come back to be like breaks whenever an administration really starts to go off the rails, and it causes us to be like, wait, what a second, this is not the America I was taught about in school or taught about in church or, taught about in my community. And I think that's what's happening right now. People are starting to realize like things they don't even really have to think about most of the time, like due process or, things like contractual obligations. When the Trump administration canceled like billions and billions of dollars in existing signed contracts all around the world, like people had already done the work and we're just waiting to be paid, and we're told, well, we're not going to pay you. That's a very Trumpian thing to do, but that's not how the US works. And that's not how, so a lot of people are like, no, you don't just mask people, don't sweep people off the street and send them to prisons in some other part of the world, never to be heard from again. That's a banana republic.
We are. That is not who we are. Yeah. That is not who we are. Christian, do you have a few minutes? There's something has happened with Iran, and I just wanted to, with your experience, I wanted to talk about this from a people's point of view. This just happened. We've just moved the Gerald R Ford into the Med. This is the third carrier strike group. We've got the Nimitz, the Carl Vincents, and now we've got CSG-12. We just moved the Gerald R Ford. And folks, again, I talk about American military capability all the time. The Gerald R Ford is the terror of the seas. I mean, it is when it comes to kicking ass, that is the last thing you want to see on your horizon is the Gerald R Ford. I mean, it is badass doesn't begin to cover what that ship can do. The capabilities of the 12th Carrier Strike Group is insane. And we've just moved them within striking distance of Iran. One of the points that keeps getting lost, and this is where I want to get your point of view from a diplomatic point of view, because it's so challenging to the diplomats on the ground that have been working so hard. There was a vibrant movement in Iran to move away from the religious conservatism, to move to a more representative government, there was a strong movement within Iran. When Israel struck Iran, that is the same thing. And I try to put this in context so people can look at it within their own lives. Okay. There is a division in this country, which is massive. It is huge. I do not break bread with Republicans. I do not break bread with MAGA. I do not. I don't talk to them. I don't want them around. We are not having cross conversations. We are a divided people. If someone struck, I don't know, Andrews Air Force Base, I don't know, maybe you can come up with the best comparison to what they did. MIT or, Oak Ridge, or something like that. If another nation struck one of those targets, there would be no daylight between the MAGA nutters and us. Mm-hmm. Not an ounce. You wouldn't be able to squeeze a feeler gauge between us. You talk about unifying a nation and ending a movement. That is exactly what Israel did when they attacked Iran. The people of Iran just went together. And all that momentum was just lost, or at least set back for a distance. I mean, you've seen these things happen before. I mean, I don't understand why the press isn't talking about. I mean, people need good information. They need to know. Look, yeah, Iran is brutal. They are. I mean, they burn people with freaking acid, man. They are. But you know what? What we're doing ain't helping. It's not.
Yeah, I mean, the very definition of like tricky diplomatic issues is the Middle East. And I'm no expert in the Middle East. I spent most of my career either in the former Yugoslavia or in the former Soviet Union. But no, very tricky. I'm not surprised we're sending a carrier strike group into the area just as a show of force. I mean, that's not a bad thing to do, just even if you're going back to the negotiating table. And frankly, I think sending a carrier strike group in, again, I'm no expert. I think that has a lot more to do with trying to encourage the regime in Iran to come back to the negotiating table. Because and again, sometimes the threat of force is a lot better than force itself, as you yourself pointed out. You actually use force, and that was Israel who attacked, of course, not the United States. But you're right that it can really galvanize the people. I think I read recently that the regime in Iran only had like 20% support from its own people. There was the mass movement that you talked about a few years ago, and it was absolutely violently put down. I think 500 people were killed, or don't quote me on that number. It was a very large number of people. And so, no, I mean, the regime is not beloved by most of the people. And yes, an attack by Israel, I would imagine, is very galvanizing. But we'll have to see over time, because I think Iran put a huge amount of money this happens in our country too. Whenever we have these forever wars abroad, trillions of dollars flow that way. And that's trillions of dollars that don't get invested in our schools, in our roads, in our, public transportation, in our health, et cetera, et cetera. And so the Ayatollah and company had invested so many billions of dollars in this network of a proxy, Hezbollah, and in Syria, Bashar al-Assad, and the Houthis in Yemen, and of course Hamas, etc. And now that coalition lays in complete tatters, and there are a lot of people in Iran who feel like, that money, was completely wasted and could have been spent in Iran itself, which of course has been suffering under sanctions for a long time. But we'll have to see. There's a huge movement even in MAGA world to not get involved in a war in the Middle East. I think that it's a bipartisan issue that we don't want the Trump administration to unilaterally attack without going through Congress. That goes back to the issues that are sort of fundamental to trying to live through this Trump administration, is that they're completely ignoring the separation of powers, checks and balances, powers of Congress, and we need Congress to step up, including our own Congressman Moran. And I think it's the grassroots movement
That's not happening.
we're doing now. Yeah, it's at least showing that, look, this may be a predominantly Republican county or congressional district, but there are a large number of voters who feel otherwise, and that number is growing every day. And so,
I was just sitting here, and I like to, when I tackle a subject, I kind of like to the nuance. I love nuance, I really do, and I love the different aspects of it and the different players involved. And this is why I wanted to. I just, and of course you can't. Like I said, you're not a Middle East expert, but you have seen diplomatic corps working within countries, and then some politician does something, or for instance, like the strike from Israel.
mm-hmm.
I mean, here we are, the IAEA, the international community, everybody's negotiating with Iran. Iran is actually starting to come around. I mean, we'll never get them back to the JCPOA because of the advancements that they made. That will have to be rewritten. What we consider people mention the JCPOA all the time, and just, you need to know, folks, we're never going back to the JCPOA because that was written when Iran had a specific set of capabilities. Because Trump unilaterally just withdrew us from it, they have advanced. So the new agreement is not going to mirror the JCPOA specifically. It can in spirit, and we were headed that direction. And then here comes Israel when we're making headway. I mean, we really were making good headway. There were concessions by Iran. They were like, okay, we will concede to international control of enrichment, but their counterpoint to it, and there's always a counterpoint. Their counterpoint to it is, it stays here. The facilities stay here. They stay within our grasp. They stay. That's where we were in these negotiations, that there was real back and forth. And then here comes the strike from Israel, and that's over. If I'm Iran, bring all the aircraft carriers you want. You can go fuck yourself. You just attacked me mid negotiations.
Mm-hmm.
And that is leading to this. This is the kind of chaos. We were talking about incompetence within the Trump administration, and how those that, not the diplomats themselves, the diplomatic corps, the professionals, the lifelong professionals, are still there. We still have that, folks. That's the silver lining here. We still have good, qualified people that are there. But from the top down, it is just raining incompetence. They are scrambling, Christian, right now to try to get these negotiations moving back again. And what I was asking to you, and I know I'll try to land this plane. I know I went way long on this, but imagine being part of that diplomatic corps. Imagine having been working on this, because, I mean, there are other countries within the region. This is a team effort. We're moving in concert here. And now it's their job to try to convince Iran to get back to the table. Because that's where we want to be. We want to be doing this peacefully. We want to be doing this diplomatically. Imagine the total fuck you to these people that do this professionally. This must have been.
Well, no, I mean, these negotiations are always going to be fraught, and it is very difficult. I mean, I will say that yes, you're absolutely right. As sort of the willingness to negotiate has probably, the goodwill, I should say, in negotiations has probably totally evaporated. Um, I will say though that Israel has degraded Iran's capabilities in a very dramatic and shocking way, and this has been a show of force on Israel's part that I think has really taken all of us by a lot of surprise. And then we have a war of attrition between the number of missiles that Iran has and the number of sort of countering missiles that Israel has. So I don't know. I can't predict. I can't predict how it's going to go forward. I mean, I could see it going kind of either way. But I mean, if we can't
I
get the
just
Iranians to the negotiating table, then that's a moot point.
Politicians come and go. I'm just thinking about the professionals. We have a really good diplomatic corps. We really do. A lot of sharp people like yourself that really are sharp people that understand. These people work their ass. This is their job, man. This is what they do. And when you get buffoons just up there, just making things so much harder than it has to be, and then you've got the protocols that are so tightly followed because you're putting your credibility on the line. You're the face, you're the person doing the talking. You know, and I love the way you parse your words because the training, the very careful not to put, can't make a statement that's not really, I mean, it's, the way you will not cross those lines and the things that you say. I'm just thinking about those people and the pride that goes into their craft. Um, and it just pisses me off, Christian. It really does. It pisses me off. Don't waste good people's work. Don't waste good people's time. Don't make shit hard for people because you're a moron and it plays well with these idiots on the right wing, throwing red meat to your base. Oh, we're tough guys, this, that, and the other. Now, there are real professionals that understand the complexities of these issues, that understand Iran as a nation. They understand, I mean, folks can't tell you two cities in Iran. They can tell you Tehran, pardon me. They can tell you Tehran. They can't tell you a second city in Iran. They can't. They don't know about that. But there are people that do this for a living. They know all about the different cultures. They know, for instance, the difference between a Texan and a Californian. They understand the regions of Iran and the different people of Iran, what motivates them, this, that, and these people are doing this job, man. And just to see these idiots up there that are just on every level, buffoons, fools. They're fools.
Well, and I think, I mean, I'm so I'm a former U.S. diplomat. I actually left federal service in 2023, which is in part why I can have this conversation. But I will say that no, this has been a tough time for obviously all federal workers, but for the Department of State in particular. I mean, I think the Department of State is full of professionals that work over decades in an apolitical way, completely apolitical way. We serve all presidents, no matter of what political party. And I think what the Trump administration is doing to USAID, of course, completely destroyed. These are all professionals that we share offices with. We work in the same embassies together, and they do amazing work. And almost all of them have been thrown out on the street, and their kids have been pulled out of schools all over the world halfway through the school year. And it's been really devastating. But I think it's very demoralizing for folks at the State Department as well. And I'm enheartened to hear what you're saying about the professionalism of the State Department, which I 100% agree. There are tremendous professionals out there that dedicate their entire careers, decades and decades, to trying to create peace in the world through diplomacy and not through military intervention. And I would hope and I wish that the Trump administration saw, the positive work that we do, and did not politicize the State Department in the way that, unfortunately, that they have. And, I blame Project 2025 for that as well. I mean, but yes,
I look at people like Sebastian Gorka over our counterterrorism department, and I just imagine people, because I know the caliber of people that we're talking about. I know, these are, like I said, folks, I can't stress to you enough. There are people in the State Department, the professionals, the ones that don't come and go with each administration. They're educated beyond belief. They have forgotten more things about some of these regions than I will ever know. Having to sit and have a conversation with a moron like Sebastian Gorka, and his twisted, warped fantasy land Fox News world views, having to sit through those conversations, and everything inside your body is screaming, that's not how any of this fucking works, you idiot.
Yeah.
But you have to sit there and formulate a response to, well, this is why we can't invade Hungary. This is why we can't, I mean, it's blowing my mind to think about these conversations.
Well,
Christian, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You're talking about one, which is sort of like, substantive knowledge. And you're absolutely right. On substantive knowledge, I mean, diplomats have tremendous substantive knowledge. But the other thing that most government workers and diplomats in particular is that we have ethics. And in the State Department, that's what's been so crazy to watch what's happening in the Trump administration. Like, we cannot accept more than a $25 as a gift, and only accept it if it would cause embarrassment to the giver, right? And the idea of watching like the Trump administration like accept or try to accept a $400 million plane or these types of the ethical problems that we see swirling around the Trump administration, cryptocurrency, real estate investments, selling, Trump branded while you're still in office. I mean, these things are such a shock to those of us who are, been in federal government where, ethics are so pounded into us over and over. But before we land this plane as you described it,
do you mind taking a question real quick?
Yes. Yeah.
I want to tell you, I want to brag on my audience for a little bit, Christian. These are professionals. This is not like your typical podcast audience. They aren't. These are professionals. These are sharp people. We've got a global audience. So folks, chime off where you're from. We've got people here from Europe, from Africa, from Australia, this is a big group. One of the questions that they wanted to throw at you was, we had so many people in 2024 that just sat at home. What do you think the best message is to get those people motivated? To get them to show up?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I do think, for instance, for many of us, we feel like that this is an existential issue, that our democracy is at stake. I mean, I can say that I've served in a number of former dictatorships in authoritarian states. And I've watched, and I think we've all watched, places like Hungary and Poland, backsliding into autocracy, Turkey, and to see how a democratic system can be systematically dismantled around the edges and there's get more and more penetration. And a lot of us see that happening in the United States. So I do think that, we've got to stand up, and each one of us, by standing up, is essentially a leader. And it's got to be in solidarity. We can't do anything as individuals, but as a group, we can be very, very powerful. That's why, Indivisible exists as a nationwide nonpartisan organization, but individual chapters can be started really anywhere because, like you say, all politics is local. So we have our Indivisible Smith County. There's the nationwide group is indivisible.org, and ours here in this area is indivisiblesmithcounty.org. And we're doing a series of events all the time, happy hours to just network. We have a series of protests that happen, throughout the past several months and moving forward indefinitely into the future. And we encourage people to get involved. I may have lost.
If you'll post that link in the private chat there, Christian, we'll go ahead and put that in there. We'll go ahead and put it into the chat for people to see. I'll bring it up on the screen for folks. Christian, I want to thank you for being here, my friend. I really do. Folks, I can't stress to you enough. When I tell you, hey, get involved with your local Democratic Party, this is the kind of thing that we're talking about. You get to meet great people. You get to meet great people. This is sleepy little Tyler, Texas, we're talking about here. And you've got a guy like Christian there, that knows shit, that can talk to you about things, that really understands complex, and what we're doing is things like that. You've got groups on the right that are these oligarch-funded AstroTurf bullshit groups, and that's why they keep making allegations that we're like paying people to be there and stuff. No, it's not. It's good people that live near you, that have world experiences like Christian, that are forming these grassroots, bottom up, get it done organizations. And that's what it's all about. I can't stress to you enough. There is no broligarch billionaire sugar daddy funding our movement that's going to make it all happen for us so everybody can sit at home and ignore it and watch 90 Day Fiancé. It's just not going to happen. We got to get together and hang out. And I promise you, you're going to meet some great people. You're going to meet some great people. And just do it, folks. Just do it. Christian, I appreciate you being here, my friend.
Thanks
I
for
really
having
do.
me. Yeah.
I love our conversation. Thanks, man. I really thought your daddy was a congressman for some reason. I don't know where I got that.
No, he ran for office in 1980. Yeah. Against Ralph Hall. I mean, he's been very involved.
I appreciate you being here, my friend.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
my pleasure. Thank you so much for
Enjoyed
having me
it.
on your show.
I enjoyed it.
All right. All the best.
All right. Great guest. I love this is what I'm talking about, folks. Know people. Do it. Get involved with people. And you can change the world. Well, look, we've got a lot to talk about today. I loved our guest. This is going on, folks. This is going on. The early voting has started in New York City, and it is blowing everybody's mind. There is kind of an old mantra in politics. In the Democratic Party, we have tried desperately to get our young folks out. We have. The old timers have kind of a point of view on this. He who builds on youth builds on mud. It's just, they're unreliable at best. That has changed, my people. That has changed. The young people are coming out guns blazing, and they have absolutely changed the entire framework. Everybody that had a model for the New York mayor's race is in full freak out mode. They're ripping it apart and throwing it away because the early voting in New York City is skewing massively to young people. They are getting out and they are getting it done. So yeah, folks, if you're in New York City, get out. And I'm going to ask you something. I don't want to see Mario Cuomo. I don't. I don't think he's good for the party. I don't shit talk Democrats. I don't, but I'm telling you, don't rank Mario Cuomo. Don't do it. We don't need that shit for the next several years. We don't. The mayor of New York City gets media playtime, and I don't want that face to be Mario Cuomo. I don't. I wish him all the best. I hope he has a great life, just not mayor of New York City. But yeah, that's happening. This happened. I want to give you, we had a great conversation. I want to give you something to chuckle about, something to smile about. And I don't even know why I'm smiling about this, because this is our tax dollars paying for this fireworks. But here it is. The smartest man in the universe, Elon Musk, is just having problem getting it up. This is the last SpaceX test that they just conducted. Yeah, this is not going well. This is not going well. I don't think they're supposed to do that. I shouldn't smile. I shouldn't be happy about that. That's a lot of money, a lot of taxpayer money disappearing right there. But man, I don't know why this makes me. Every time I see it, it makes me laugh. Oh my God. Oh man. Yeah, we're going to Mars. We're going to Mars. Not in that fucking thing or not. Oh my God. That is freaking hilarious. Uh-oh, I'm out of coffee. We have a crisis, people. I'm out of coffee. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to breathe, 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 breathe. All right. The crisis intervention team has arrived. Yeah. And, Elon's rockets blowing up. You've got all of that going on. You've got, this craziness in Iran. I just want to just hit that again. Folks aren't digging it. And Trump has just decided, okay, we're going to do 2 weeks. We're going to make a decision. 2 weeks. In the meantime, so that, as Christian mentioned, you want a strong show of force to try to encourage people back to the negotiating table, especially people that have really no desire to be at that negotiating table. Yeah, they 2 weeks, 2 weeks, kind of like Putin was given 2 weeks to straighten out his act in Ukraine, or Trump was going to get tough. Yeah, no, this is Trump tacoing out again. This is Trump chickening out again. They are desperately begging Iran to come back to the negotiating table. And I encourage Iran to do that. I do. I really encourage Iran to do that. I can read your comments now, by the way, folks. I try not to do that when we have a guest. I don't want to interrupt what they're saying. But yeah, thanks, Vincent Day. I appreciate you being here. Appreciate you supporting the show. Thanks for your show, Paul. It as always makes my day. Wish you were on 7 days a week. I would love to do that. I really would love to do that. But man, whew, I enjoy them days off in between, man. I really do. But I'm thinking about it. And while we're talking about it, Steve from Canada, I got your email. I did. I haven't responded to a lot of emails lately. I've been a little bit tied up. As you can see, I've been outside working, a little sunburn. So I haven't been on the emails like I should, but I am reading them. And Steve disagreed with my assessment when I said the United States could really challenge the rest of the world to a kick and ass contest and have a shot. Steve, let me tell you, brother, my Canadian friends, nothing but mad respect. Everybody always makes the joke that the Geneva Conventions were written for the Canadians. The Canadians are fierce fucking fighters. They are. And when I said that, that is no disrespect to Canada, because yeah, a kick and ass contest with Canada would not be fun. It would not be fun. They're really fucking polite until they go to war. And then I don't know what happens to Canadians. I don't. They actually, when they edited the last version of the Geneva Conventions, actually went back with an eraser and erased a few lines that, so many of the lines ended with the words, "and that means you, Canada." Really, they are bad. But Steve, let me elaborate on what I was saying. There was footage that I showed you of Ukrainian drones when they just decimated Russia's bomber fleet, right? Our generals were watching that footage. 1 second, got some coffee. Oh, love the coffee, man. I really love the coffee. But yeah, our generals were watching that, and they were like, "Oh, that is so cute! Look at that! Watch! Look, he blew up a plane. He set a plane on fire. Oh man, that's precious. That is precious. Yeah, our drones don't do that. Our drones don't blow up planes. Our drones blow up fucking air bases. We are so on the next level. Let me tell you what our drone capability is, Steve. And we're just talking just the drones. Just the drones. Everybody's like, drones have changed warfare. Yeah, we figured that shit out like 5 years ago. Where do you think Ukraine got the idea? Yeah. Our drones, Ukraine's got these cute little drones. You keep seeing images of them, and they look kind of like, they look like kind of like DJI drones that you'd buy from China that have been modified and this, that, and the other. Our drones, not so much. Not so much. We have drones, and I shouldn't laugh about this. It's not funny, but our drones are kind of like set it and forget it. Yes, we have some operated drones, but we have drones that we can just say, just tell it, go blow that up, and it will do it on its own. It will fly there. And I'm talking about not munitions that can blow up a tank. I'm talking munitions that can blow up bases. It will fly there. It will do everything it has to do to evade radar, to evade destruction. It will do its job. It will destroy its target, and it'll come home. Yeah. Our drone capabilities, we're not talking about the same playing field. We're not even talking about the same fucking sport. We're not talking about the same fucking stadium. Our capabilities, we spend more than the next 26 countries combined. And I don't think this is a good thing. I don't think this is a good thing. I really don't. But folks, don't get in a kicking ass contest with us. Just don't. Don't do it. Ever. We don't need 3 carrier groups to have a war with Iran. The Gerald R Ford could do it alone. Yeah. No shit, folks. Steve, I meant no disrespect to Canada. I did not. I think Canadians are badass. When you go troop for troop, the Canadian troops are some of the most badass fighters on the face of the planet. But I must stress to you, Steve, people have no idea what our military is capable of. I mean, really. The professionals, and Iran, I encourage you to, I do. I don't think Trump he's a piece of shit. He is. And you've got no reason to want to return to the negotiating table. You don't. Do it anyways. Because the professionals that work within our military, they've got this plan. They know where every power substation is. They know where every communication hub is. They know where everything is. Your water systems will disappear like that. First day. Please, Iran, be the grown-ups in the room. I know. I know he's a fucking clown. I get that. I know you're dealing with power hungry, crazy piece of shit in Israel. I get that. I do. I do. But I'm just asking you, be the grown-ups in the room. Do not end up in a fucking kicking ass contest with us. Don't do it. Meanwhile, the Gerald R Ford is badass, but it ain't cheap. Don't get good gas mileage. Put it that way. It's a nuclear power carrier. It costs a lot of money to make that ship operate. And yeah, we've got 3 carrier strike groups just sucking tax money up right now. Because Trump was an idiot and took us out of the JCPOA in the first place. Before Iran had all of these capabilities. This is directly Trump's fault. This is directly Trump's fault. You know, you can actually go look up and see charts of what Iran's capabilities were before Trump made the idiot move because he was jealous of Obama's penis and had to take us out of the the JCPOA that was negotiated, which was a win for Obama. Yeah, what Iran's been able to do since then is amazing. And yes, the strikes did degrade their capabilities temporarily because Iran has already promoted people to replace the ones that we killed, the ones that the ones that Israel killed. They were going to rebuild the facilities. Before this year is out, they will be enriching again. We didn't do much with this. This was stupidity. Anyways, next topic. Yeah, did you know that you have too many holidays? Just going to let this sink in for a second. This is where I say I am so grateful for you folks that are part of our European audience, part of our international audience. Let me tell you something about American workers. American workers don't know that we've got the shit end of the stick. They don't. They have no idea for the most part. Now, you folks that are more worldly, more international, you understand the disparity between the amount of time off a worker gets in other first world nations versus what we get. Our productivity in the United States has skyrocketed. Our workers are doing their part. The amount of time off they get is shit. The benefits they get is shit. It is. Most American workers don't get 2 weeks off in a year. You have to be on a job and earn seniority up to getting 2 weeks off. It's insane. And we have a president that is part of the Broligarch class that thinks that's too much, man. These holidays, these holidays that you get are just too damn many of them, man. Yeah, you need to stay in that damn factory. In fact, we're going to make it to where we can put your kids to work in factories, and your kids, Christmas, you better get your ass to work. I mean, these people are insane, and they're saying it to our faces. They are saying it to our faces, people. Mr. Knudsen, thank you for being here. The unionized and civilized world, 5 weeks paid vacation. Johnny Got Rocks needs to have 0 paid days in the USA. Insane. Are you hearing Mr. Knudsen here? Are you hearing our Norwegian friend here? 5 weeks minimum. And that's not even sick leave. That's not even you had a kid. That's just if you go to work and you do good work for somebody. And I don't think anybody has a problem with the quality of goods that come out of that region. They're doing good work. You get over a month off. You're blowing Americans' minds when you say that, because they couldn't possibly imagine that as a worker here in the United States of America. Even skilled workers, even high paid workers, you will get people that are professionals, that are nurses, that are, that will brag that they get 3 weeks off a year. And they're on the high end of the benefit scale here in the United States of America. We work like fucking dogs here. And the Broligarch class thinks it's too much. It's too much. Glenn Kaneko, Wiley goes golfing every week. I know. On our dime. On our dime. That is the type of privilege we are talking about. A guy that we give an airplane to and feed. That guy never doesn't even feed himself anymore. We feed him every meal. Every meal we feed him. We fly him. We pay for hotel space in his hotels for his security entourage, and we fly him so he can go golfing all the time. That fucking guy thinks that you get too much time off and is bold enough to walk to a microphone and say it. Don't take my word for it. He said it. He told you that. You got way too damn much time off. But I got to tell you, things are not going super well for them. It's been kind of a mixed bag. I know we talked with Christian about the loss we had over the National Guard. Folks, shit, we pay for his bronzer. Well said, sir. Well said. Folks, I know we had a loss with the National Guard in court, but remember, that's the 3-judge panel, not the full panel. That fight isn't over. And it was the damn violent protesters that cost us that case. The judges said, well, you know what? You're right. The governor should control his own troops. If there was the federal government can't just come in willy-nilly and take your troops for no reason. But, look at this guy throwing rocks. Look at this guy burning a Waymo taxi. Look at you gave him reason. We had to take that one on the chin, but it hasn't been all bad. It hasn't been all bad. We've got Trump has lost a very significant case. They have been trying to blackmail blue cities and blue states into coddling ICE, letting ICE run rampant, do whatever the hell they want to do by stripping them of funds that are approved by Congress. And the judge said, that's illegal. That's illegal. You can't do that. You cannot tie funding that is approved by law from Congress. You cannot tie that to another agenda. You just cannot do that. You can't say, they won't play nice with me, so I'm taking my ball and going home. It doesn't work that way, you immature child, like little brat. So yeah, we've got that going on. The normals are winning. And I told you, folks, the normals are winning. They are. But folks, let me just stress to you, while we are seeing good things like, propaganda Barbie, this whole 2 weeks in Iran thing, she got absolutely destroyed over this. It really was fabulous. When they came out with that 2-week number, every time Trump can't deal with the situation and wants to run and go hide, 2 weeks. We're going to deal with it in 2 weeks. Oh my God. They just skewered propaganda Barbie over that because, that's what they do. Anytime they've completely fucked up like they have in Iran, lost the script, he just wants it to go away for a while. He says some arbitrary date down, and with Donnie, it's always 2 weeks. Remember 6 weeks ago, Putin was going to get a bunch of new, Donnie was going to be super tough in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Yeah. But yeah, there's so much going on. I want to introduce you to something. This is well, you know what? We'll talk about a few more things before we get there. This is also happening. Our Florida people, I'm sorry. I am really sorry that you're going through this. I really am sorry. This is just piss poor Republican management. Do you know that your insurance companies made sure they are not regulated at the federal level? your homeowner's insurance, your car insurance, that is all regulated at the state level. And Republicans don't believe in regulation, and they don't regulate, and they just will not do their job. The welfare of your citizens is your number one job, period. And that includes managing and regulating industries that are critical to your people. You cannot just sit on the sidelines and say, capitalism, take care of it. Yeah. It doesn't work that way. And Republicans don't like to do the job. They hate, remember, to a Republican, government's bad. Regulation's bad. They're telling you to your face. They don't want to do the job. They're not going to do the job. And Ron DeSantis, when it comes to insurance, isn't doing the job. He's just not. It's me. Donald Trump has a finger in the air to say to see which way things go. That's not a leader. That's absolutely what's going on. They did not expect, Israel didn't expect the reaction from the American people. The average person is taking a look at what's going on. And when Israel struck Iran, and they said, "What the fuck, Israel? Really?" And that was not the response anybody, including the Republicans, because they went automatically on script. And this is blowing up in them. And that is exactly why Donnie Dumbass is 2 weeks, so he can figure out which way the wind is blowing. Deborah Emery, that's why you matter, folks. Your responses matter. What you do on social media matters. The phone calls you make to congressional offices matter. It matters. That's what this 2 weeks is about, is Donald Trump going to find out how bad this is going to hurt him, how much it's going to hurt his fucking ratings. Because this isn't a presidency, it's a goddamn television show. Deborah Emery, thank you for being here, Deborah. I appreciate you. I really appreciate you. Lady Di, Paul, I never miss your show. Please keep reminding your audience every show to hit the subscribe and like button to boost the algorithm so more people can view your show and grow your community. Thank you for reminding everybody. Hit the thumbs up button. It matters. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything. All it's going to do is there's a tab on your left at YouTube where you scroll down, it says subscribed. It'll just show you when there's a new show there. If you hit the notifications bell, it'll give you a little notification when we go live. That's it. It doesn't cost you anything. We aren't tied together. It's just convenience for you. Do it. It helps us with the algorithm, and we'll get more people, more good people like you in the audience. I want to introduce you to General Gordon Granger. This is something that just, I love history. I really do. And I'm going to say some very negative things about some women here, and I'm going to use some very colorful language. Please stick with me. I am not a misogynist jerk. I'm not. I'm one of the fairest people you know. When a woman is an asshole, she's a fucking asshole. And I call it that way. But stick with me. This is General Gordon Granger. He is a very significant man in our history. He is probably one of the more significant men you've never heard of. We just celebrated Juneteenth. If you don't know what Juneteenth is, on June 19th, 1865, 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, Gordon Granger rode into Galveston, Texas with his troops. And he let human beings know that they were free, that they were no longer owned by other human beings. And it's important to talk about slavery, but I hate the fact that we always call them slaves, because to me, it kind of desensitizes a little bit. These were human beings. These were people owned by other people, like a dog or a horse or a cow. Gordon Granger rode in to Galveston, Texas on June 19th, 1865, and freed the last of, well, they weren't technically the last, I mean, but it's what we mark as the last of the slaves that were held here. Even though they had been freed 2 years earlier, you had folks down here in the South said, no, we're not going to do that. We're just going to keep on owning people. You know, I want to pause this for a second. I'm going to jump around a little bit. Just stick with me. I catch a lot of hell here in Texas. The Alamo is a big deal here. Remember the Alamo, because it's all part of this mystique that Texans like to have. And the Alamo, they like to think of it as their Thermopylae, just a handful of brave soldiers fighting it out with that oppressive General Santa Anna. And it's bullshit. It's all bullshit. It is fucking made up bullshit. And that's kind of where we're going with this. This is why I'm mentioning it. Folks, the history that you know, a lot of it is crap. It is just crap. And I'm going to get to, if you'll stick with me, I'm going to get to why. And no, it's not. It's not Hollywood. It's not Hollywood. You know, there's a group of people. There's a group of people that after the Civil War, it's not just Greg. I appreciate the comment, but no, it's not a Hollywood thing. It starts with these bitches. It starts with these bitches right here. And I told you I was going to be rude to women here, and they are these bitches right here. They're the reason your history is fucked up. The Daughters of the Confederacy, I want you to take some time and I want you to read about them. They interjected into our curriculum bullshit. The Civil War is about states' rights. It's about states' rights to do what, Cletus? States' rights to do what? And this is why I bring up the Alamo. And I know I'm jumping around a little bit. I got off of Florida. I'll get back to Florida, I promise. States' rights to do what, Cletus? Because let me tell you something. And this is why I bring up the Alamo. You want to know the truth of Texas? We were invited here by the government of Mexico and treated wonderfully. The government of Mexico pretty much will let us govern ourselves for the most part. They had one rule. You know, the basic rules. You can't murder people. You can't stuff like that. You know, the typical laws in a country. But when we came to Texas, there's a strip across Texas. It's called the Cotton Belt. It runs from the Gulf Coast up to northeast Texas. It's a green zone, Brazos River Valley. And these Confederate assholes wanted to build plantations. And the Mexican government said no. Did they come in and burn their plantations and drive them out? No. They told them no over and over and over again. And finally, Santa Anna said, you can't fucking own people in Mexico. And he rode north. And the whole Battle of the Alamo wasn't about a bunch of people in a dire struggle for freedom. No, bullshit. They were fucking slavers. The reason they were at the Alamo is they held slave auctions there. Jim Bowie, the hero, he was a crook. Talking about Galveston, a pirate buddy, a French pirate buddy that used to steal slaves on the high seas and would bring them, and Jim Bowie would take them, turn them in. They would manipulate the law. He would turn them into the government, and the government at the time would actually auction them off as slaves. It was a fucked up time. It really was. Then he would buy them back and have legal slaves. He was a fucking slave trader. He was a human trafficker. These were not heroes at the Alamo. The good guys at the Alamo were on the out fucking side. And I get, as you can imagine, here in Texas, I catch a lot of hell for that, but it's the truth. Repugs are the brotherhood of victimhood. They are. They are. But I am jumping around, and I'm going to try to tighten this up a little bit and get back to what I was talking about. The reason I talked about General Gordon Granger, and he's one of the biggest badasses you've never known. Not only is he the general that is tied to what we call Juneteenth, the celebration of the end of slavery. Well, you know, he did a few things before. He had a kicking ass contest with another general by the name of Braxton Bragg. And I believe I pulled up the wrong picture. I think I showed you Bragg's picture by mistake in the beginning. I sure did. I lost Braxton Bragg. This is Braxton Bragg. Sorry, I pulled up the wrong tab. This is Braxton Bragg, for which Fort Bragg is named after. One second. And I just want to go off on a tangent for a little bit. You folks know I love history. I really do. This is Braxton Bragg. This is Fort Bragg is named after this was named after this piece of shit. This is the piece of shit they want to go back and name it after again. His own troops hated this son of a bitch. They did. He was a terrible general. He was a terrible general. And he wasn't even an American general. They formed their own nation, and he fought against our nation, and they want to name our bases after them because of those daughters of the Confederacy bitches that rewrote our history. And let me give you an example of how they rewrote our history. This is the Chickamauga battlefield. How many of you had heard of Chickamauga Creek? How many? I mean, really, Chickamauga Creek. Nobody? I don't blame you. It's a fucking creek in the middle of nowhere. But if you listen to a historian, this battle, it's a big fucking deal, man. This battle is why they claim Braxton Bragg is a good general. He's not. He's not. Let me tell you about the Battle of Chickamauga. That I tell you what, Southerners loved it. Chickamauga. An amazing Confederate victory. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. It was not. The truth about the Battle of Chickamauga is the Union troops were marching to Chattanooga. The Confederates rushed out to meet them. When the Unions formed up their lines, a general by the name of Wood, he made a mistake. You see this one little white bar in the middle here? He made a mistake. He didn't close up his lines. And Longstreet, the one good general the Confederacy had, Longstreet. Remember that name, because you never hear much about General Longstreet, because they didn't really like him, because he actually opposed what the Daughters of the Confederacy were doing. He's the one that told General Lee, do not fight the Battle of Gettysburg. If you fight the battle of this battle, we're done. Lee hated him for that. And history has hated him for that. It was the truth. It was stupid. Gettysburg. If you ever go to the Battle of Gettysburg, to the battlefield, the Gettysburg battlefield, I have. You take a look at that, and you think, boy, this is fucking stupid. The Confederates had a 6-mile-long line that was shaped in a fish hook. General Meade at Gettysburg, his line was 600 yards. He could move men, troops, and material like that. The Confederates had to march across open ground, and they got slaughtered at Gettysburg. They did. It was not even close, but historians They talk about it just like they talk about Chickamauga here, like it was consequential and important. It wasn't. It wasn't a great Confederate victory. That's idiocy. And I can prove it. I can prove it. Do you know what happened 2 months after this battle? You know what happened 2 months after the Battle of Chickamauga that was so decisive and such a big victory? The Union Army took Chattanooga. Braxton Bragg didn't do anything. He slowed them down for like 2 days. Jeff Schuler, good to see you here, man. He lives right by Chickamauga Battlefield. These battlefields are there. You can go look at them. You can go see them. This was not a decisive thing. It wasn't important, but the historians, they keep calling it important because of the Daughters of the Confederacy. And they made it their mission to rewrite our history. That is what they did. Your university curriculums are still infected with bullshit that they have put into the American mantra and the American mindset. So much so that you have a sitting president of the United States saying, I'm not going to celebrate Juneteenth. You got too many damn holidays. Folks, if you cannot celebrate marking the end of slavery, if you cannot celebrate General Gordon Granger riding into Galveston, Texas, and telling human beings, you are free, and take that as a good thing, a point of pride, a point of growth, an explanation of what and who we are, you're broken. There's something wrong with you. Yes, this is a true statement. Linda Bechter, Gettysburg was lost before it began. It was. General Meade fought a textbook battle there. Most people don't even know who General Meade was, who he was. You've heard of Fort Hood, John Bell Hood. Hood got his ass handed to him by the Lion of Gettysburg, Colonel by the name of Chamberlain. They call him the Lion of Gettysburg. Got whipped. Folks, let me give you an idea of the idiocy. The Confederate rail depot that was supplying them was 6 miles away. The Union rail depot was a couple football fields behind their line. This battle was over before it started. This was stupidity. General Longstreet, the one Confederate general I tell you was the only decent general the Confederacy had, it was filled with buffoons. Lee was not a brilliant general. He was a buffoon. His only victories were on his home ground, where you had an advancing Union army advancing on him through the fucking trees. If you've never seen a war in a forest, read about the Ardennes. Read about if you are on defense in a battle in the forest, you have an overwhelming advantage, because for them to advance, they must move out from behind the trees. You can stay hidden in your trenches. You can stay hidden behind your cover and just shoot them. Lee was a fucking moron. He was. And I invite you to go to Gettysburg and see for yourself what a moron he was. I've driven the entire battlefield, and Longstreet pleaded with Lee, please don't do this. This is stupid. Please don't do this. And he did it anyways. Why? Because he sucked as a general. But we don't teach that, do we? Especially here in the South. Why? I am not kidding you. Read about the Daughters of the Confederacy and what they did to our school curriculums. It was a bunch of bitch sewing group bitches that were not going to have their sons be ashamed. They weren't. So they rewrote our fucking history. Asmore Newton, trees are kind of bulletproof. Yeah. Yeah. Kate Marylight, just catching the end of the show, end of June, and just getting my garden in. I am way behind on my gardening too, man. I really am. Jeremy Breeden, thanks for always being here, my friend. The Battle of Hurtgen Forest in World War II is a great example of the difficulties of fighting in a forest. Yeah, let me tell you something. Those trees catch on fire. Smoke fills the air. You can't, forests are dark places anyways. Smoke fills the air. Those fires, the trees explode. Their sap begins to boil from the heat. You are standing in a blast furnace. If you've never seen, like, especially like pine forest, if you've never seen pine needles burn, it is hell on freaking earth to advance through a forest. It really is. It really is. But yeah, I'm going to stop beating that horse to death. The couple things that I want you to pay attention to is they're trying to rewrite history. You've got a president of the United States is sitting there just insulting Juneteenth, a holiday that should be a point of joy and celebration in our country. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. General Gordon Granger walked in and he changed our nation's track of history. We grew as a nation. We became a better people. Because remember, those were the good guys. How many of you even heard of Gordon Granger? General Gordon Granger, the savior of Chickamauga. The reason I brought up Chickamauga was Gordon Granger, like I said, they pretty much will caught the Union off guard, and the Union were going to have to fall back immediately. Gordon Granger showed up and repelled them at Snodgrass Hill, and fought Braxton Bragg back. I mean, they were terrible generals. They were terrible generals. If it wasn't for Longstreet's advance, the Unions would have decimated them at Chickamauga. They would have, if it wasn't for Longstreet. But yeah, how many? I mean, really, most people haven't. Most people don't know. Man, read about Joshua Chamberlain. That man was freaking amazing. I'm going to tell you one more quick story, and I know I go on about history too much. I want you to imagine being John Bell Hood, that guy they thought he was horrible. All he did was attack all the time. Just threw his men into a meat grinder. He was one of the worst generals ever. Monica Chappell, thank you for this information. I always enjoy your show. What are your suggestions to update our history and take it back from the Daughters of the Confederacy? Yeah, we have to rewrite those books, folks. We do. We have to rewrite our history. This is bullshit. We have to make it factual. The fiction that they created is bullshit. Marcia Klepper, man, the custom bar is getting full. Jar is getting full. I appreciate the support, folks. I really do. But yeah, we do. We have to make a concerted effort to take a look at. I mean, the Alamo, really? The heroes at the Alamo were on the outside. Yes, I'm glad Texas is here. I am a proud Texan. I'm glad Texas won its independence, but I can still admit we were wrong. We were wrong about the slavery thing. We were wrong. Oh, man, I hope your coffee's as good as mine. I hope your coffee's as good as mine. But yeah, I promise you I would tell one more history story, and I will. I know I'm jumping around a lot, and I apologize. I will land all these planes that I've got hanging out there. Joshua Chamberlain was called the Lion of Gettysburg. The first day of the battle, he was in the center lines, and a ball. I'll tell you the short version, the Cliff's version. A ball. They believe it hit a rock. They don't believe he was shot in the foot with a ball, because that would have pretty much well taken his foot off. It would have just destroyed his foot. They think what happened was that a mini ball, the ammunition from the muskets, from the rifles at the time, the guns at the time, One of them hit a rock, and that went through his boot. So he was treated there. So he's got this foot, and I want you to imagine it, okay? I want you to imagine it. He's got this foot wrapped up in a bandage of the day. Big white bandage wrapped around his foot, clownishly. The bandages they used were kind of clownish, wrapped around his foot. And he did. He became the government. It is a great story. These are the kind of stories we could tell people to really support. But no. We got to have Fort Hood named after that fucking moron, John Bell Hood. So John Bell Hood, he's off on the far right lines of Gettysburg. And he is one of Lee's attack dogs. He doesn't care how many of his men he gets killed. He just attacks, and loses no sleep over it. Well, like I said, Chamberlain was in the center of the lines. He gets injured. His men get relieved. Nobody expected Lee to charge the center of the lines. So there was some brutal fighting there. They repelled them. So they tell Chamberlain, look, you're injured. Your main regiment fought admirably. Meade says, I'm going to move you to the end of the line, which, remember, is only a few hundred yards. We're going to move you to the end of the line. We don't expect any flanking maneuvers. It would be stupid. The ground there is horrible to advance on. Just hold the flank. Make sure nothing happens there. You're good. So much so that Chamberlain's commander wasn't even there. Remember, he's only a colonel at the time. Wasn't even there. So the fact, and it's an area known as Devil's Den. It is a horrible place to fight. When you're the Confederates, you have to come downhill to a ravine, and the only cover are these big rocks that are down there, right? And they have to march through that, whereas the Union soldiers are up on like a bit of a bluff. Steep, not quite a bluff. It's not sheer, but it's pretty high. They've got the high ground. And of course, John Bell Hood doesn't give a shit about his soldiers. So he marches them through that hell. And Chamberlain's men, after fighting just brutally, man, they fight until they literally run out of ammunition. They've shot so many Confederates. What does Chamberlain do? Well, he's got this really great lieutenant, and he orders fixed bayonets. And this lieutenant gets a little froggy and screams, "Charge!" And that young lieutenant goes to take off. And the men follow because the main regiment was badass. They did. They fixed bayonets and they charged. And then this is Chamberlain with his big clownishly wrapped foot is not going to let that lieutenant be the only officer out there. He is skipping across the battlefield with his saber in hand, just skipping through Devil's Den and up the hill. And there's a diary that they have from a Confederate soldier that says he saw this. He was loaded. He had Chamberlain in his sights, but it was such a spectacle seeing him skip across the field with his saber and his big, huge wrapped foot. He couldn't shoot him. He couldn't shoot him. But yeah, I mean, he went on to fight for days and days and days. He was injured after that. He took a horrible injury in his bladder that plagued him today. He went on to become the governor of Maine. But yeah, he is somebody that we should revere. The kind of bravery and grit that they showed is just amazing. That could have been our history were it not for the Daughters of the Confederacy. Catherine Ryan, Texas Paul, you're the best history teacher I've ever had. Thanks, man. Yeah, he did. Cape Maryland. He did become the governor of Maine. He did. He was an amazing man. He had to put up with Dan Sickles. Jeff Schuler, this is expected from a president that needs a coloring book for intelligence briefings to know the accuracy or relevance of our history. Yeah. I'm telling you, folks, I hate to rail about that. I love history. I'm just telling you, folks, it could be different. We can change this. We can do that. We can. Well, look, I'm going to put that to bed. I'm going to quit beating that horse. I know I don't want your eyes to glaze over like this is a damn history class. You know what I'm going to do? One more thing before we go. I want you to see. If you ever get to see the movie, the movie, the series Gettysburg, this is Jeff Daniels' portrayal of, and he looks strikingly similar. He looks strikingly similar to Joshua Chamberlain, but this is Jeff Daniels' portrayal of Joshua Chamberlain, and he does an amazing job. Not exactly 100% historically accurate, of course. There's a dramatization, but you have actual Joshua Chamberlain who whipped Hood's ass at Gettysburg. But because of the bigots, because of the Daughters of the Confederacy, Fort Cavazos and they're trying to rename it back to the Confederate pieces of shit. The guy that got his ass beat is getting a fort, one of our major forts here in Texas, named after him. You're getting Braxton Bragg. They're trying to rename a fort after them because of history, folks, because of the Daughters of the Confederacy, because of the bullshit people teach. Not the guy that whipped his ass, showed supreme bravery, fought for the United States of America. Our army, not the Confederates, which was another nation. Our army. They didn't name it after him. It matters, folks. I know I raise this shit and people are like, why is it going on and on? It matters. Words matter. History matters. And we need to rewrite our history to reflect some accuracy. The Devil of Dallas, the name of the bases after the Union guys no kidding. No kidding. Before they renamed it from Hood to Cavazos, I was screaming, name it Chamberlain. Name it Fort Chamberlain. Name it after the guy that whipped Hood's ass. All right, my Florida people, I know I got off on a tangent about how piss poor the Republicans run their states and they don't want to govern. I'm sorry. This is happening. You've got insurers asking for as much as 31% rate increases to be approved by the state government of Florida, and they're going to do it. Folks, ask our Florida people. Insurance in Florida is a nightmare. Most major insurers have pulled out. Rates have skyrocketed, and like I said, this year they're asking for another massive rate increase, as much as 31%. Folks, I don't know about you, but I don't know people that have an extra $1,000, an extra $1,500 laying around to pay more for their homeowners insurance. But it's because Republicans can't govern. The whole point of insurance is to share the risk. I don't have hurricanes where I'm at. By the time a hurricane reaches me, it's really slowed down. It's a bad thunderstorm by the time it gets to me. Okay? My risk is much lower. The whole point of insurance is to share the risk. So if we're going to build and we're going to have cities like Miami and Tampa and Fort Lauderdale or, New York City or any of our coastal cities that we benefit from, we've got to share the risk. But no, the insurance companies have used their money to buy off politicians and keep this all at the state level. And Republicans like DeSantis in Florida, like Abbott here in Texas, are like, do what you want. Screw our people. We don't care. Capitalism. Woo! Folks, Democrats believe it is their job to look out for the general welfare of their people. That includes regulating industries, fully capitalistic industries, regulating them so that things don't like this don't happen. Silly Bibu, yet the same people whine about the participation trophies. I know, right? I know. Yeah, Mr. Knudsen. Yeah, insurance companies absolutely believe in climate change. I feel for folks, love our Floridian audience. Love them because, man, they're going through it. Insurance is a nightmare in Florida right now. It is. And don't sit there and say, well, you voted for this, because, man, a lot of people didn't. A lot of people didn't. They really didn't. There's a lot of good Democrats in Florida that warn people about this. And yeah. This is happening. And again, I'm going to leave this up for a minute. So be patient with me. There's a couple of things I want to point out about it. I warned you about the economy. I keep giving you the signs. This is how naive and screwed up Wall Street is. We told you about the ports slowing down. We told you about, the economy is crashing. Prepare for that. Prepare for there to be less work. Prepare, do what you have to do to prepare. This is why we're together in this community, so that things like this don't catch us by surprise. Well, every signal, it's showing. I mean, all the red flags keep coming up. This is a huge red flag. Housing starts have plummeted. But this is how crazy Wall Street is. The rest of this headline, that could be a good thing for home buyers. And the article goes on to say, yeah, the reason housing starts are plummeting is because there are no buyers. The market's really soft. If you're a buyer, prices are coming down. Do you fucking hear yourself? The market is soft because there are no buyers. There are no buyers because the economy is fucking tanking. And your prices are ridiculous, which means we're about to see a major movement in real estate prices, the wrong direction. And when people that bought houses that were overpriced, yeah, that's my man Alan Davis right there. The bubble is bursting. When you see things like this happen and you start to see massive resets in real estate prices, if you massively overpaid for a house and you can't get out of it, what are you going to do? You just going to pay $100,000 more than what you would have to pay if you just ditched the house and bought another one before your credit went south? Because that's what people do. And that leads to massive foreclosures. And that means to stress on the banks, because our banks are not being regulated like they should right now. They aren't. The Fed and the Federal Reserve are getting massive pushback from this administration. They really are. They're screaming for Jerome Powell to cut rates. And Jerome Powell is like, rates aren't that damn high. We have to keep this tool in our toolbox, because the economy appears to be both dying and inflation seems to be skyrocketing at the same time. We're going to need rate cuts as a tool in our toolbox. We're not going to do it now, but they are coming. That's the one silver lining, is that, yeah, the Fed believes that massive inflation is coming our way, and they're going to have to cut interest rates, which they're not exactly. It's going to take a very deft hand, because remember, when they cut the interest rates, that's to spur economic activity. Spurring economic activity So law of supply and demand, as long as there's more supply than demand, prices go down. Less supply than demand, prices go up. So if you cut rates and people start buying, using credit to buy things, and you're already having inflation, this is the tricky part. This is where what Reagan fucked up so badly in the 80s and why we had such hyperinflation under Reagan. They're facing the same situation again, and it's Trump's creation. It is Trump's whole cloth, 100% creation because of these tariffs and stupid economic policy, because he listens to people like Peter Navarro and Howard Lutnick. Canyon Diva, here in California, the state had to step in because insurance cancellations and price hikes went crazy from the wildfires. Yeah. Where you have Democrats, they regulate, they respond. They represent the people in these situations. In Florida, not so much. I'm really sorry. I am really sorry. Our Florida people that you're going through this. That sucks ass. It does. One second, just cleaning up a few tabs. It sucks ass. I'm very sorry, our Florida people. I am. I do want to say hats off. Ooh, look at that crazy hair. Hats off to the NAACP. You know that song? And this is how you do it. Yeah. Way to go, NAACP. I want to tell you. What crazy ass hillbilly white boy out in the middle of the sticks just singing the praises of the NAACP? You damn right. You damn right. NAACP has zero fucks left to give. None. They said, we're not even going to pretend. We're not playing this game anymore. See, every year the NAACP has a convention. And every year, without fail, they invite the president of the United States to attend. And the president often does. In fact, in our modern history, the only president to not attend has been Donald Trump in his first term. He just didn't show up one time. Well, the NAACP said, pardon my expression, fuck that noise. We're not playing these games. He's a fascist. He's acting like a fascist. He's not welcome here. And this is the first time in the NAACP's history that they are just overtly saying, we are not inviting you. And this is how you do it. You don't normalize this shit. You don't you don't do what our corporate media is doing, which is to normalize this shit. It's not normal. It's not okay. And unlike so many university systems that have bent the knee, looking at you, Columbia, versus university systems like Harvard, so many corporations that have bent the knee, looking at you, Target, versus businesses that have stood up like Costco that have said, no, we're not going to end our DEI programs. You know, they were trying to say, go woke, go broke. Yeah, bullshit. Let's take a look at who's doing well. Let's take a look at who's making profits. Which businesses are performing? Which organizations are flourishing? Because the law firms that bent the knee to Trump, they're seeing a flood of their corporate business walk out the door. And they're being told specifically, you're a law firm. If you can't fight for yourself, you're sure as fuck not going to fight for me. And you're seeing the law firms that stood up to Trump are getting massive influxes of corporate business. Not as a political statement, just as a statement of, yeah, at least they'll fight. Ryan T, 31% rate increase. Sure. Also, let's just get rid of FEMA too while we're at it. That's why I'm quote going raw unquote and don't have insurance. FEMA will pay way before insurance ever will. Don't bet on it. Don't bet on it. FEMA's history. All them American sugar daddy, American government sugar daddy dollars that used to flow these red states every damn hurricane season. Not this year. Have the day you voted for. Have the day you voted for. Well, look, folks, it has been, can you believe it's been 2 hours? It has been 2 hours. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you hanging out. Thank you, Christian, for being here. And I enjoy it. As always, enjoy our conversations. All politics is local, folks. You have things like this going on. I just want to share this with you. Beto O'Rourke is going to be here in East Texas and Sleepy Little Tyler. We're going to have a shindig. We're going to have a get together. I know a lot of you are like, dude, I'm in Arizona. Why are you showing me this? Because there is something like this, just like this, going on with your local Democratic Party. I'm going to go hang out with Beto, man. I am. June 29th. I'm going to be hanging out with Beto. It's going to be a good time. Great people. Do the same thing. You will enjoy it. I promise you. And on that note, enjoy some Texas cities at night.